Hey boss, welcome to another Collection Connection, the game that's just an excuse to talk about records. Starting to format these intros, get through them a little quicker. In any case, this past Monday over on the Plastic Soundwave Cult channel, my brother Plastic Eric talked about the 2014 re-recording of the 1982 debut from the Anti-Nowhere League. This is The League, uncut. Everything about this band screams SoCal punk to me, from the band name to the visuals to the extensive profanity, but they're actually English. I'll give my impressions of the limited time I spent with it, then connect it to a seemingly unrelated album from my own collection that shares some facet, quirk, or piece of trivia with it. Today, that'll be a fun one from another band out of England, which is not The Connection, by the way, that brought goth sensibilities to their indie pop for a short run in the 2010s. It's the self-titled debut from Veronica Falls. The challenge we put to you is to figure out the connection from the information given over the course of the video and to put your guess in the comments, along with anything else you might have to say about either of these bands or records, or even what you would connect them to from your own music collection. The first correct guess gets a shout out in my brother's next video. But first, let's officially reveal the connection between the prior pair of albums, those being, Gang of Four's Entertainment and the Anti-Nowhere League. This is The League Uncut. And the connection there is that both albums had bans inflicted on them by the BBC, maybe Top of the Pops specifically. But they, for different reasons, were banned from performing, either because of the content or their behavior or something like that. And the correct answer was backed into by Steve Carlson, who mentioned it in his comment without phrasing it as a guess specifically. But nonetheless, that's right. And so congratulations to Steve Carlson for that correct guess. And with that, let's get on with the show. All right, so Eric did show This is the League uncut from the Anti-Nowhere League, a band name that I feel like maybe I knew in the air, but not a band that I'm familiar with at all. I wouldn't have been able to even peg them as a punk band, but they were, and they started in the early 80s. And my impression of the record is that it was pretty foul-mouthed, which is fine, but it was sort of aggressively so, and almost seemed to have more in common with sort of rap. The songs that I heard seemed to be more from a personal point of view and sort of bragging and stating opinions, about it. What stuck with me didn't feel particularly political. It just felt like overconfident. And This is the League, they are referring to themselves, in the chorus of that song. It's just like, this is the League, the League, the League, the Anti-Nowhere League. And talk about how you don't want to mess with them, and how they will fuck you up. And other songs like I Hate Rock and Roll. And just seemed kind of about establishing identity. A record sort of very much about itself is what it felt like to me. But I didn't even get to listen to the entire thing. I've had to turn this video around quite quickly. And so, I thought it was interesting to see that the album that Eric has is a re-recording. So it's not like something that they pulled out of the vault. The uncut part makes it feel like something was restored. But it was a recreation of their first album. And I think, at least according to what Eric told me, I forget if he mentioned this in the video, is that the original recordings were like lost or confiscated or something that played into that whole band thing that they thought maybe was too obscene. And so they re-recorded it. And there's not a whole lot of indication that it is a re-recording, but I didn't listen to any of the original album at all, and I listened to about half of the actual album that Eric played. So my impression of it was, it's punky, it's fine, and I don't know, it felt surprisingly apolitical, and it is totally a knee-jerk reaction, and you might be able to pull out songs and say, no, here they're talking about the Falklands, they're talking about whatever it is. But that wasn't the impression that I got on the run that I heard of it. So that's where I'm at with the Anti-Nowhere League. Now I've heard some of their music. I think maybe if I heard them, I would have heard of them when we lived in Southern California. And so maybe that feeds into that feeling that they seem more like a Southern Californian band. Because I have no idea what Anti-Nowhere League means. I don't know what it comes from. I can't parse it out by thinking about it. You're against nowhere. You've come together to form a league of being against nowhere. I have no clue as to what that band name means, and it feels like the kind of nonsense that would come out of Southern California, rather than sort of the more angry punks of England. But it is what it is, and there you go. So as far as my connection goes, I have connected it to the 2011 debut from Veronica Falls. This is an indie pop band that is two girls, two guys, and kind of picks up from some of those 80s bands like the Primitives and the Shop Assistants. And the Shop Assistants just recently had their possibly only album, or possibly just their debut, reissued on Cherry Red, so I've actually just picked that up recently. But this Veronica Falls I've had for a while now. And I have the Primitives, Lovely, is that the name of the one that has Crash on it? Very good album. Kind of propulsive. It's poppy. At the same time, it's got a little bit of dark creeping in. And Veronica Falls has a little more darkness even than that kind of creeping in. They have a little bit of that sort of Renaissance feel to it, you know, that really throwback folk kind of feel that is like Greensleeves, you know. And I think I got it, it was maybe offered as sort of, so they had their sort of 80s antecedents with, like I said, Primitives, Shop Assistants, but they also started to feel like a precursor to a band like Always from the 2010s. And I think I was looking for more stuff of that nature. Maybe in the genome it suggested this Veronica Falls. I listened to a couple tracks and I thought it was really good, and I got it. They've only ever released 2 albums. Their second one was like a couple years later, called Waiting for Something to Happen. And that one I've gotten more recently, but it's still pretty good. And this one, yeah, it's just a fun one to put on. It doesn't take long to listen to. The songs are fairly short, self-contained. They have the way they sing. Multiple singers. I think there's a female voice, and this is again from the 2010s. So I don't know band member names. None of this stuff. Along with my inability to remember song lyrics anymore, I have the song lyrics I grew up with are just tattooed into my brain, and I can sing along with all those songs, and I seem completely unable to pick up new song lyrics and new information about bands beyond their names. And not the names of the members, just the name of the band. So, yeah, anyway, I love it. It's a fun one to throw on. I like that it was a band that I'd never heard of before this. I thought they were Canadian until looking them up for this, and they are actually out of London. So I think that feeds into that sort of Always maybe connection that I had into why I looked into them in the first place. Always being a Canadian band. And they got song titles like Found Love in a Graveyard and Misery and Bad Feeling. Play into that, so the voices, lots of kind of harmonies that especially come in for the choruses and things, but there will be sort of maybe the female singer who I believe is sort of the main singer, and then either the other female will harmonize or sometimes a male voice will come in there and either harmonize and do call and response kind of things. And it always kind of goes from a slightly, dark place, minor key kind of thing, but often in the chorus, it kind of opens up into something really pretty, like on the song The Fountain. I love when it kind of opens up in the middle of the chorus there into something that may not still be major key, but it feels like it. The harmonies kind of get much brighter, and it doesn't necessarily feel hopeful, but it feels like catchy indie pop to me. And so it's not like a sensational record. It doesn't feel like the kind of record that's going to be anybody's favorite record, but it's a very enjoyable record from a very enjoyable band. I like both of their records. They only had the two, and I'm glad that I have them both. And I think, actually, I don't know what I think. Eric will think of them, but yeah, they have a self-titled song, Veronica Falls, on here. Come On Over is nice. And Beachy Head was the name of a single. But songs like, yeah, Bad Feeling is somehow combines that sort of pessimism with upbeat music. It's a little bit raw, a little bit underproduced, which is nice. And I just find it really enjoyable. It's not quite what I would call jangle pop, but it's not a million miles from it either. It's just very kind of an indie sound, again, with a little bit of goth edge on it. And I think it's good stuff. So give it a listen. Maybe you'll think it's good stuff too. Veronica Falls, from Veronica Falls. And with that, I will throw that over to Eric, and he will find a connection to it on Monday and present it on his channel, The Plastic Soundwave Cult. In the meantime, if you think you know what connects Veronica Falls with the thing that I talked about before this, the Anti-Nowhere League, then yeah, put that guess down in the comments. If you're right, we'll let you know, and you'll get a shout out in Eric's next video. So with that, thank you for watching. Bye-bye.